Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to iHeart Sports Power Rankings time. Hope everybody had a good weekend. It was a pretty average week of baseball, I must say. I was kind of looking over the standings, looking over the box scores, and kind of noticing the majority of the teams over the last 10 games are like 5-5, 6-4, 4-6. So it's a lot of 500 baseball. So you'll notice not a lot of movement in the power rankings from last week because honestly, most teams are just exchanging wins. But one thing for sure, staple at the bottom, we got the Cincinnati Reds, 2-1 against Milwaukee, 2-2 against Pittsburgh. They're finally starting to pick up some wins, but I'm going to stick them in last. Keep them there until they show that this is more of the way they're going to be doing things, picking up some wins here and there. But before that, they had one of those epic losing streaks. Still going to be holding it against them. Next up, next up, Detroit, 1-4 against Oakland. They swept Baltimore this weekend. They played 8 games this week. Had a rough series with Oakland. Honestly, had them in last for a little bit, but coming out and taking that sweep from Baltimore, giving them a little bit more of their credit back. Number 28, we got Washington, 1-2 against the Mets, 1-2 against Houston. Washington, pretty much staple of the bottom in the National League East. They're going to have a long season, not a whole lot going for them. Lose both series this week. And honestly, they could be a team that we could see that at the very bottom very shortly. 27, Kansas City, 1-2 against Texas, 2-1 against Colorado. They're in Coors, and their offense really popped off this weekend, so they have some excitement there. But overall, the season has been quite a disappointment for the Royals. If it wasn't for Detroit, they'd probably be pretty much in last, but that division's been pretty weak for them so far. 26. We got Texas Rangers, 2-1 against Kansas City, 1-2 against Boston. Pretty much a 500 week, but if they kept going 500 the rest of the season, they'd work their way up because Texas is trying to make some steps forward this year. And so far, it's looking like they might be that team that does it. Right now, I got them as the weakest team in the division, but they're right behind these Oakland A's, who went 4-1 against Detroit and 1-3 against the Angels. They had a ton of games this week. I think 9 games there. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but it happened, and we have the A's there. They've been the team that everyone expects to get destroyed most nights. They've been putting up a fight a lot of the time, but the Angels, they did pretty much handle them this weekend. Number 24, hanging on to the second row, barely. We got the Baltimore Orioles, 2-1 against the Cardinals, so giving them a little bit of credit, picking up a big series win against a top team like the Cardinals, but then they get swept by Detroit, which actually dropped them a whole rank overall on the week. Got them ahead of these teams still, but they're hanging on by a thread. And considering their division is one of the most stacked ones in the league, going to be tough to see them make any more headway than where they really are already. Number 23, we got the Pittsburgh Pirates, 2-1 against the Dodgers, 2-2 against Cincinnati. They gave up a couple of wins to Cincinnati over this weekend, kind of stopping them from having that breakout away from Cincinnati. Again, they're quite a few teams away, but realistically, all these teams up until this point might have a chance at some point or another throughout the season to be last, whether they put streaks together of that nature or not. Number 22, we've got the Chicago Cubs, 2-1 against San Diego, 2-1 against Arizona. Winning week against the National League West. Pretty pumped about that. But overall, they still have a lot of ground to make up. They had a good start of the season. Pretty rough stretch since then until this week, winning both series. Maybe a little bit of momentum here. But they have a lot of ground to make up in their division. Number 21, we got the Miami Marlins, 1-2 against Arizona, 1-2 against the Brewers. Lost both, and really ever since that 9-game winning streak, they've been slowly falling down the rankings because they're not winning series, and they don't really have the offense that comes together, doesn't really put up the runs across the board. The pitching seems to be doing all right for them, but the offense is not picking up the wins. Number 20, we got the Boston Red Sox, 1-1 against Atlanta, 2-1 against Texas. After a big free fall last week, they pretty much stopped the falling, and they're looking to turn that back around. They had a winning week this week, although they've only played 5 games, going 3-2. They have to be satisfied taking that series win on the road in Texas. Number 19, falling down a couple of spots. We got Colorado Rockies. They got swept by the Giants, division foe, and then they lost at home to the Royals. So both series. So after starting the season, I remember they were one of the last teams that hadn't lost a series. They've now lost quite a few in a row here, and getting swept by that division rival. They're pretty much out of the division race at this point. They're in fourth, right? They might even be in fifth at this point. I keep Arizona saying, yeah, I have Arizona ahead of them, so they're in fifth in the power rankings wise in the division. I don't know about standings per se, but might be the weakest, and it's a tough division, so it's going to be hard to see them go any farther. Number 18, we do have those Diamondbacks that I'm talking about. They've been quietly doing well, 2-1 against Miami, 1-2 against Chicago Cubs. 500 week, but they've been quietly doing well, and if you put them head-to-head in a long series, I would take them over the Rockies on a best of 7. So that's the difference right now. Number 17, we got the Seattle Mariners, a new low for them, 1-2 against Philly, 2-1 against the Mets. But 500 is not going to cut it to get you into the top 2 rows. If you're playing 500 baseball, you're going to be here or lower. You're in the bottom half of the league, and that's right where Seattle is right now, right in the center of the league. They're in the middle of their division. They got 2 weaker teams, 2 teams that are being much stronger. And they're just not, after a pretty hot start, they're just not pulling together wins like you would want them to. So that's why they're 17. 16, we got the Cleveland Guardians, 1-1 against the White Sox, and 1-2 against Milwaukee. Guardians, they're outperforming expectations as of right now. They had a nice little tiny split with the White Sox. Keeps them in the hunt, at least in the division. This division is definitely wide open right now between the 3 teams. Number 15, we got the Atlanta Braves, 1-1 against Boston, 1-2 against San Diego. They're just not putting anything together. They're not getting winning streaks together. They're not getting series wins together. In a division where the Mets seem to have run away with it so far, they're going to be fighting for a wild card at this point. So that's basically where we're going to start hitting these top 2 rows or playoffs, and this is like the border of the playoffs, and that's right now where I see the Braves. They just need to get some sort of streak going, and they definitely can. They might have had a tougher schedule. I haven't looked that deep into it, but the defending champs need to get something going here. Number 14, they're being pretty hot right now. The Philadelphia Phillies, 2-1 against Seattle, 3-1 against the Dodgers. Bryce Harper has been on fire since May 5th. He's either hit a home run, stolen a base in every single game that he's played, although he missed today, and I think they lost because of it. Not because of it, but he was in it. Potential injections in that there, so big worry of whether that injury will affect them. But right now, Phillies, I give them a slight edge over the Braves, and roster-wise especially. Number 13, we got the White Sox, 1-1 against Cleveland, 1-3 against the Yankees. The White Sox, after having an atrocious start, they went on a little bit of a streak over the week before. They're pretty much back down to losing. But lucky for them, they're in a weak division where it's always up for grabs. So I'm keeping them at number 13. Number 12, that division leader that they're chasing. 0-3 against Houston. 2-1 against Cleveland. So they're beating the division. That's what matters. They're going to keep that, trying to get that separation a little bit larger. But right now, I got them on the playoff bubble, really. I really see the American League Central, only 1 team potentially coming out of here. So it might potentially be a winner-take-all in that division for sure. Number 11, dropping a bunch of spots. We got Toronto Blue Jays. My Toronto Blue Jays just have not been performing. Again, same kind of story as Colorado. They started the season winning every series they're playing, and then they just struggled with the Yankees, and then they lost to Tampa Bay this week as well. So they're falling back. They're almost back down to 500 after such a hot start that we haven't seen in Toronto in a long time. But Jays fans right now are not too happy with how we're sitting. Number 10, the San Francisco Giants, 3-0 against Colorado, and then they're getting blown out tonight on Sunday night by the Cardinals, and they're going to lose that series 2-1. But top 10, they're a top 10 team right now for sure. Their division wasn't so strong; they'd definitely be up even further. But they got 2 teams ahead of them that I don't see them catching, so they're going to have to play for wild card at the very most here. So that's what we got. San Fran, number 10. Number 9, moving up a couple of spots, Tampa Bay Rays, 1-2 against the Angels, 2-1 against Toronto, a 500 week. But they're playing good teams, and they're starting to get that heat going. They started off kind of slow, which is not typical for Tampa, but they're definitely getting it together, and they're picking up that big series win against Toronto. They've secured second place in that division pretty well right now. They got to be happy with how things are going with that. Number 8, we got St. Louis Cardinals, 1-2 against Baltimore, 2-1 against San Fran. just kind of consistently playing about 550, 600 baseball. The Cardinals are just chipping along, and I expect them to go on a little bit of a run at some point or another that will secure them in that 8th spot in the league for sure. Other than that, like, their offense popping off tonight. We got a good taste of them tonight on Sunday Night Baseball. Number 7, we got the Angels, 2-1 against Tampa, 3-1 against Oakland. The Angels might finally be for real. They seem to finally be getting the pitching that they've been waiting for so many years, and this is probably the highest the Angels have ever been on our power rankings. No, we've had them high before because there's been hopes and dreams for them, but they've never actually secured that spot this late in the season, definitely. Trout, Ohtani, all those guys. We've got Taylor just having great seasons, so Angels are in a great spot. Number 6, same division, actually in second in the division right now, but in my mind, the better team, 3-0 against Minnesota, 3-0 against Minnesota, then 2-1 against Washington. We got the Houston Astros. I just have had them ahead of the Angels all season long, and this week is no different. They're probably the hottest team in baseball. I think they're, over the last 10, they have the most wins. Still think with Verlander and all them, they got a little bit of an edge. The Angels do have to show that they're for real consistently, whereas the Stros have been here, done that for the whole season many of times. Number 5, we got San Diego Padres, 1-2 against the Cubs, 2-1 against Atlanta. Just same spot as last week, 500, but they're in a good spot. They got to be happy with how the season's gone so far, but they will not be happy until they overtake the Dodgers, that's for sure. Number 4, Milwaukee Brewers, 1-2 against Cincy, 2-1 against Miami. Like I said, a lot of these teams had 500 weeks. That's basically what the MLB's been like the past 10 games for most of these teams. So same story here. They're top of their division. Don't really have any reason to move them around. So there's that. Number 3, we got the Mets, 2-1 against Washington, 1-2 against Seattle. They won the one game in Seattle this weekend with an epic comeback to hold on, and we haven't seen the Mets being swept. They've put up fights in 500 baseball. Again, same story, yada yada. Number 2, we got the LA Dodgers, 1-2 against Pittsburgh, 1-3 against Philly. Rough week for the Dodgers. What's that? 2-5 pretty much. Not too happy, but again, on paper, they're the best team in the National League. I think they do have the Padres right on their tail, drops them down out of first for being in such a contested division. San Francisco could happen. We saw it happen last year. But number 1, we got first time this season at number 1 spot. We got the New York Yankees, and we can't argue anymore. The Yankees have been one of the hottest teams all season long. They went 2-0 against Toronto, 3-1 against the White Sox, against 2 of the top expected teams this year. They had a good week. They got a big lead in the division, I think almost 6 games, at least over Toronto. And they're top in the American League. Guys, this is the power rankings as of right now. Let me know what you guys think. Who would you change? Who would you swap around? Etc., etc. What's your top 5? And guys, we will see you guys out there for that next video. Thanks for watching. Peace out.